I had a sister that I lost. I was 12 years old. Well, we lost. I was 12 years old. My sister next to me was 18, and my older sister that passed away was 19. And we wrestled with her age. But then we was reminded that God himself lost his son when he was 33. But it wasn't the end. It was a new chapter for new work to be done.
Wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, because joy is here right now. So join us, join us, join us, join us as we grow and we be inspired. We're thanking God for a brand new day. He's been so good and he makes a way. Our daily bread is on our plates as we're breaking fast with the plagues.
I mean, God, he's serving you. He's giving you himself. Why now?
I'll share some. The first thing I hear is mission accomplished. What God had for him, he checked that box. All of us like to compare our life with the person next to us, and you know, 3 scores and 10, and we was getting 4 scores. Well, we have to understand that that's not promised to everybody to have 70, 80 years. And something my dad used to say. And I had a sister that I lost. I was 12 years old. Well, we lost. I was 12 years old. My sister next to me was 18, and my older sister that passed away was 19. And we wrestled with her age. But then we was reminded that God himself lost his son when he was 33. But it wasn't the end. It was a new chapter for new work to be done. So the things that Brandon did in his last days, weeks, months, and even up the last year, it still lives on. Because now he have kids that's in church, that's attending church. He have the kids that's looking up to him and what he's did, and it's inspiring them to be better people. And so it's almost if he said, I ran my leg and I passed the baton. So he did it, and we can't compare it with anything else, because we see children that die at birth. We see other folk. I saw something on Facebook this week. Someone was celebrating 107. None of our lives are parallel, but I still hear God say, mission accomplished. What Brandon was supposed to do, he checked that box, and it was time. And sometimes, I know it's hard to hear because we want to hold on to everybody. We don't want anybody to die. I don't care. We don't want anybody to die, but thinking about that, but there ain't one way to get there.
One way.
But I will say this, when he checked this box, sometime God has to save us from ourselves and save us from the drama that's around us. Because I oftentimes say this, the first time I said this publicly, my oldest sister that was 19, I truly don't believe that she was equipped to deal with the problems that we deal with. And I don't think she had the same grace on her life to maybe turn to the other cheek or be long suffering. So God had to do what he had to do quickly, because she wasn't able to deal with it. He knew what Brandon needed. He knew how Brandon approached life. He knew what was happening in Brandon, and the salvation that happened in Brandon was spontaneous, not spontaneous, it was instant. He had an instant salvation. So he could have stayed here another 10, 15, 20 years. He wasn't going to be any saver. You know, you can't get any saver. You either save or not save. God saved him. God took him home. So
and it's funny when you say that thing, because it makes me think about, well, I have a cousin that was more so like a little brother to me, and he died early. But there was questions that I had, you know, when you pour, like, Lord, like I knew I saw the change, but I wanted to be sure, like you, and God doesn't have to give us those assurances that they got it right, but I'm thankful that he does. And it was nobody had asked this question to, nobody at all. And I remember praying that night, like, Lord, just let me know, because it was, you know, I want to be certain. And he was like, but if he, you know, if he's saved, he didn't lose his salvation. But God honored that prayer. I didn't say it to anyone. He had an old Bible at his house. And inside of the Bible was my graduation program. But it was that God wink moment. He had taken every sermon, every message, everything. He had gone back through all of those, looked up all of those scriptures, and that was God letting me know it was for real, for real. So you get a comfort in when you know that they really, not your mama, not your grandma relationship, you had your own relationship with God. And the same thing that you said, I know some of the things that have happened since his passing, there is no way he would have had the tolerance or the patience. So I am thankful that even though he suffered, even though he went through those things and he left here ahead of time, I believe that there were God winks all along the way that he showed that he was definitely in his life.
I would give a pushback, and I know it can come back. Maybe he didn't leave ahead of time, he left on time.
Right.
And sometimes we think a person need to hit a certain number and then they accomplished what was supposed to happen. But I'll go back to it again. Jesus was here for 33 years. And when he left on time. He didn't need 70 years. He didn't need 80 years. He didn't need 100 years. He needed the years that he had, and that was his time. One thing you said earlier, and I want people to get this, and I want them to really lock in on this. You said, dear. You say all of us, the way we make it through these things, drink, eat, exercise, and rest.
Rest.
I think it's essential for us to do those things. I want to share something, and I'm going to turn to church in this moment.
Okay.
And I began to look, and I began to study, and I used to pray. And, you know, oftentimes we deal with grief. We deal with it so much, whether it's ours inwardly or others outwardly. And I began to think about the story of Naomi. The story of Naomi. Well, obviously she was going through a grieving state, and when she was going through a grieving state, she had lost her husband and her two sons, and she had to figure out, what do I do next? How do I get to the next place in life? Because things are falling apart. Things have fallen away. This is not the life that I signed up for. It's not the life that I thought I would have. But all of a sudden, I've lost all my support system. My financial support, my family, I've lost it. What do I do? Because not only is my husband gone, but my sons, they can't sustain me. They can't take care of me. And I think in a time of grief and a time of loss, we have to really learn how to reinvent ourselves. It's not going to be the same. We can't depend on the same pattern, the same thing. We have to find out, how do I function? What do I do now? When they were here, I was able to make that phone call. Before I lost my job, I was able to pay these bills. Before the divorce, I was able to do this, and I'm in this time of grief, but I think you can hold on to those principles that she had. And there's three things that I want to share. Y'all know I love giving notes and points and sticky. Listen,
we got one.
The first step in overcoming grief is having the right perspective on what it is.
Yeah.
Understanding what this is. This sadness, this depression, this whatever it is. Let's understand what's really going on with us, and not thinking that we're crazy or something is wrong with us because I don't have the energy or the motivation to do the things that I once did. Let's truly find out the perspective on it. So the first thing we have to do is recognize and own the pain and the loss.
Yeah. Do you mind if I interject something?
Please.
Right here? I saw this the other day, and I took this note down. It says, grief is the heart's pain of trying to find a way to say that it's really over. I'm going to read it. Grief is the heart's pain of trying to find a way to say it's over. So trying to get that perspective, your heart itself is trying to figure out, how do I wrap my mind around this? Because your perception is your reality. And if you don't accept what you're actually going through, that this is not just this moment, it's not just this stuff, I'll just feel this, we say some kind of way, but it is what it is, calling the apple an apple.
You have to accept.
You have to accept.
That's a part, that's the five, some of the fives. Acceptance.
And I think, if I'm not mistaken, if you're looking at the 5, it's the last one.
Yes.
Because, you know, we go through all the different things, and finally, you know, we go through the bargaining, we go through the blame, we go through the anger, we go through
Denial.
bargaining,
Yeah.
we go through all these things. But at some point, after all of that, I have to accept what happened.
That's it.
And so the first thing I would say is, with overcoming it, with getting to a better place, is understanding that grief is a natural process to pain and loss.
Yeah,
It's you gonna feel some kind of way. When it get close enough to you,
yeah,
you're gonna feel it.
Yeah.
You know, if something happened over in India, I may not have any feelings towards it because I don't have a personal connection with it. But when it get close,
Yeah.
yeah.
And it's okay
it's okay.
to not be okay.
Break